I can't believe you're letting her quit dance. The words explode from my mouth, echoing through the pristine halls of Westbrook Academy. Several parents turn to stare, including Marcus Wallace, no relation, our newest board member, whose attention makes my skin prickle in ways I'm not ready to acknowledge. My sister Rachel freezes, her hand still on her daughter Lily's shoulder. Lily, my niece and the most promising ballet student at the academy, shrinks into herself, while my own daughter Emma pretends to disappear behind her phone. I'm Victoria Wallace, 38, mother of 2, board member of Westbrook Academy and wife to David, though lately that last title feels more like an obligation than an honor. Tori, Rachel says quietly, this isn't your decision. But it feels like my decision. I'm the one who's driven Lily to every practice for the past year while Rachel worked late. I'm the one who's watched her transform from a shy wallflower into a graceful performer. I'm the one who knows what she could become. She has a shot at Juilliard's summer program, I press, my voice tight. You're just going to throw that away because she's having a rough patch? Principal Matthews appears in her doorway, eyebrows raised at the scene unfolding in her hallway. Behind her, through floor-to-ceiling windows, autumn leaves scatter across the academy's manicured grounds, as perfectly choreographed as everything else in my life. Perhaps, she suggests, we should continue this discussion in my office? Marcus steps forward, his presence commanding attention. I'd like to sit in, if you don't mind. As head of the scholarship committee, I have a vested interest in our top students. Our eyes meet briefly, and the familiar heat rises in my chest. 3 months on the board together, and every interaction feels like a dance of its own. Rachel straightens her spine. No need, we were just leaving. Come on, Lily. As they walk away, Emma finally looks up from her phone. Mom, she says softly, you're doing it again. But I'm barely listening, too aware of Marcus's lingering gaze and the way my wedding ring suddenly feels too tight. The thing about perfection is that it's exhausting. Every morning, I arrange our lives like a ballet sequence. David's pressed shirts, Emma's violin practice schedule, my impeccable board meeting presentations. But lately, the cracks are showing. You missed Emma's recital, David says over dinner, 2 weeks after the hallway incident. He pushes his food around, another gourmet meal I've prepared that no one seems to appreciate. Board emergency, I reply smoothly. Marcus needed help with the scholarship funding proposal. Emma's fork clatters against her plate. It's fine, Dad. Mom's busy being perfect for everyone else. The bitterness in her voice surprises me, but before I can respond, my phone buzzes. Marcus. Meeting ran late? Still in office? Thoughts on that proposal? My heart races. These late-night meetings have become our choreographed routine. David's voice fades into background noise as I type back. On my way. Victoria? Are you even listening? I look up. David's eyes hold a resignation that should hurt more than it does. Sorry, emergency board meeting. The winter showcase funding. Of course, he sighs. There's always something. At the academy, Marcus waits in the boardroom, jacket off, sleeves rolled up. He's everything David isn't, ambitious, passionate about the arts, understanding of my drive for excellence. Your sister called, he says, closing the door. She's worried about you. Rachel needs to focus on her own life. I step closer, drawn to his energy. If she'd just push Lily harder? Like you push yourself. His hand brushes my arm. When was the last time you did something just for you, Victoria? The answer comes in the form of a kiss. Desperate. Wrong. Perfect. We've been dancing around this for weeks, both knowing where it would lead. Later, fixing my lipstick in my car's mirror, I see Emma's violin forgotten in the back seat. The guilt hits briefly, but I push it away. Everything I do, every sacrifice, every indiscretion, it's all for the greater good. For excellence. For perfection. But perfection has a price. The affair becomes another, perfectly choreographed performance. Board meetings turn into stolen moments in Marcus's downtown condo. Quick calls between Emma's lessons become breathless conversations about leaving our spouses, starting fresh. I convince myself I deserve this passion, this escape from David's comfortable mediocrity. Then the cracks begin to show. Mom? Emma's voice catches me off guard one evening as I'm deleting texts. Why does Dad think you're at a parent committee meeting when there isn't one tonight? My daughter stands in my study doorway, still in her dance clothes, looking more adult than any young daughter should. Sometimes adults need to. Stop. Her voice shakes. Just stop lying. I saw you, okay? With Mr. Wallace, at Millennium Park last weekend. The room tilts slightly. Emma, you were supposed to be at my dress rehearsal, but you were there, holding his hand, laughing like nothing else mattered. Before I can respond, my phone buzzes. Marcus, missing you? Boardroom free now? Emma sees the message preview, her face crumpling. Does Dad know? This is complicated, sweetheart. Adult relationships are built on lies? She backs away. Is that why you're so obsessed with making everyone else perfect? So no one notices how messed up you are? The words hit like physical blows. But before I can defend myself, Rachel calls. Lily's decided to return to dance, not because of my pressure, but because Miss Claire, her instructor, finally listened to what she wanted to dance, not what everyone expected. She's doing a contemporary piece, Rachel says. For the winter showcase, not classical ballet. Contemporary? I grip the phone tighter. But the Juilliard Scouts. We'll see an authentic performer, not a puppet. Maybe you should try it sometime, Tori. Being authentic. Emma's still watching me, her eyes full of judgment. On my phone, another message from Marcus blinks. Tonight? The perfect mother wouldn't do this. The perfect wife wouldn't. But I've spent so long maintaining perfection, I've forgotten how to be real. I have a board meeting, I tell Emma, grabbing my keys. Her laugh sounds too old, too knowing. No, Mom, you have a choice. The winter showcase becomes my undoing. Everything collides in a symphony of destruction I should have seen coming. I'm backstage, adjusting Lily's costume for her contemporary piece, a dance I still don't approve of, when Marcus appears. We need to talk, he says, about us, about the future. Now? I hiss, aware of the dancers rushing past. Victoria. His tone changes. The board knows, about us, about the private funding allocations. My hands freeze on Lily's costume. What allocations? The ones you approved for my private studio project? His smile turns cold. Your signature looks remarkably authentic on those documents. The room spins. You forged my, let's call it a collaborative effort, like everything else between us. He straightens his tie. The board meets Monday. I assume you'll support the project publicly, given our personal involvement. I feel Emma's presence before I see her. She's standing in the doorway, still in her practice clothes, phone in hand. Recording. How long? I whisper. Long enough, she says, stopping the video. Dad needs to see this. Marcus steps forward. Emma, sweetheart. Don't. She backs away. Mom's not the only one good at keeping records. The texts, the meetings, the money transfers. I have it all. Rachel appears behind her, Lily wide-eyed at her side. Tori, the showcase starts in 5 minutes. What's going on? But it's David's voice that breaks me. I think our daughter is finally showing us the truth. He stands there, my steady, reliable husband, holding Emma's phone. Behind him, board members gather, drawn by the commotion. Their faces show everything. Disappointment, judgment, schadenfreude. I can explain, I start, but what is there to explain? That I threw away my marriage for a con artist? That I was so obsessed with perfection, I couldn't see the destruction I was causing? No need, David says quietly. Emma's been trying to tell me for weeks, I just couldn't believe you'd. He stops, looks at our daughter. I'm sorry I didn't listen sooner, Em. Marcus slips away in the chaos, leaving me to face the implosion of my carefully curated life alone. On stage, the music starts. Lily should be performing, but instead, she's watching her aunt's world shatter. Another performance ruined by my pursuit of perfection. The aftermath is as public as my disgrace. Marcus resigns from the board, but not before the financial scandal breaks. My signature on those documents, forged or not, costs me my position, my reputation, and any remaining dignity. David moves out the next day. I can handle the affair, he says, packing his clothes with methodical precision. But using our daughter's college fund for his fake studio project, that's unforgivable. I learn new things in the weeks that follow. How Emma started recording everything after she first saw Marcus and me together. How she confided in Rachel, who helped her gather evidence. How David suspected but waited, hoping I'd choose our family over my obsession with status and perfection. You know what's ironic? Emma says during one of our mandatory therapy sessions. I used to think you were superhuman. Perfect mom, perfect wife, perfect everything. Now I realize you were just perfectly broken. The therapist calls it a breakthrough. I call it karma. Rachel handles the aftermath with grace I never possessed. She takes Emma 3 days a week, giving her space from my shattered perfection. Lily's contemporary dance piece wins regional recognition, without any input from me. She's happier now, Rachel tells me. Sometimes letting go is the strongest thing you can do. The divorce proceedings reveal more of Marcus's deceptions. Other women, other boards, other schemes. I wasn't special, just convenient. A board member so desperate for validation that she ignored every red flag. Did you ever really love Dad? Emma asks one evening, picking at dinner I barely managed to cook. Or was he just not perfect enough? The question haunts me. David was everything Marcus wasn't. Honest, stable, real. I traded authenticity for an illusion, security for excitement. 6 months later, I watch Emma perform at her school recital. She's chosen a contemporary piece, like Lily. There's a moment where she stumbles slightly, but instead of freezing, she incorporates it into the dance. The imperfection makes it beautiful. David's there with his new girlfriend, a kindergarten teacher who wears mismatched socks and laughs too loudly. Emma adores her. 1 year after the showcase disaster, I sit in my downsized apartment surrounded by boxes of my old life. Awards, certificates, photos of the perfect family, all artifacts of a facade I can no longer maintain. We're selling the academy, Rachel tells me over coffee. She's been appointed to the new board, irony at its finest, turning it into a community arts center. Less pressure, more creativity. I think of Lily's contemporary dance, of Emma's imperfect perfection. The old me would have hated that. The old you hated a lot of things, she says gently. Mostly yourself. Emma splits her time between David's new house and my apartment. She's quit classical dance, taken up photography instead. Her first exhibition features a photo of me, unguarded, laughing at something genuine. She titled it Perfectly Imperfect. Marcus, I hear, is facing fraud charges in Boston. Another board, another woman, same scheme. Sometimes I check my phone, expecting his texts, but the addiction to that false perfection is finally fading. You know what I realized? Emma says one Sunday, editing photos on her laptop. You were so busy making everything look perfect, you missed all the real perfect moments. She shows me her latest project, candid shots of family life. David teaching her to make his famous messy pancakes. Rachel and Lily practicing their contemporary routine in the backyard. Me, learning to live without my masks. There's beauty in the chaos, she says, sounding older than her short-lived years. The Academy's final showcase is next week. I'm not invited, of course, but Emma shows me videos. Lily performs her new piece, all raw emotion and natural grace. No prescribed movements, no perfect lines, just pure, honest expression. Sometimes I drive past Marcus's abandoned studio project, a monument to my pursuit of false perfection. The coming soon sign is weather-worn, much like my old beliefs about what makes a life worthwhile. David's getting married in the spring. Emma's designing their wedding invitations, complete with intentionally mismatched fonts. Because perfect is boring, she declares. And finally I understand. Perfect was never the goal. Real was, authentic was, living was. I hang Emma's photo in my new living room. Perfectly Imperfect watches over my smaller, messier, truer life, a reminder that sometimes you have to shatter the perfect reflection to see yourself clearly.